Do you ever feel like your life is upside down and backwards? Because if so, this video is for you, and I'm going to share some really key insights that I've journeyed through on my own, and we'll also have some channeled messages today. What I ask you to do is if this video creates any shifts in you, share it down below in the comments, give this video a like, and also subscribe to this channel because we're going to be creating these videos as often as possible because I live a very unique life that is upside down and backwards, as you might too. And for us living these upside down and backwards lives, we need to work with one another and communicate because something I've seen in my life, and you probably have seen it too, is whenever we seek advice and knowledge from those around us who aren't living these upside down and backwards lives, whatever they share with us, number one, it frustrates us. Number two, it confuses us when we're seeking for answers. And number three, it's just it's like the person giving the advice is trying to help, and the person receiving the advice is getting frustrated, and it creates a conflict on top of already not knowing what to do. Versus solutions I've seen is like specifically as a creative entrepreneur is whenever I'm having entrepreneurial issues, connecting with my entrepreneur friends and asking them because even though we're all living different stages of the path, there's linear storylines that we all go through. Like for instance, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and this was so insightful, and I'm glad she shared this one with me. As she was talking about the guy who created Papa John's, and he's a self-made billionaire, and that's really rare in this reality. And when she was sharing his path to me, I was like, man, this feels like where I'm at right now. I'm not saying that I'll be a billionaire. I have hopes to be, but it's not a necessity in my life. But it's like the trajectory of his life matched mine so well, and that's what I want to share with you. Is like it's a really cool story. Essentially, he started off selling hot dogs in Chicago, and I believe she said it was like, Chicago's known for hot dogs, right? And then she was like, yeah, easy market fit. But his hot dog cart started malfunctioning, and then it cost too much to run and operate that along with the hot dog sales. So then it was like, nope, that didn't work. Threw it in the bucket. But it was definitely an intuitively led idea that was a solid idea on the market fit, right? And then what did she say next is he switched to sandwiches. And I forgot what went wrong with sandwiches, but it was a pivot, and it was a pivot that ended up failing, and the sandwiches didn't work for some reason. I can't remember. But then it ended up he had to move his family into a one-bedroom apartment in order to make it all work. And then boom, Papa John's was born. And what people tend to see is like the success of the guy who created Papa John's, but what they don't see is the path and the hardships and the pain and the struggle. And it's my truest belief in any entrepreneur like us is, we don't go through this shit to beat us up, and it's not, putting us in the victim mode. It's not meant to do that at all. It's meant to make us more resilient, more driven, more focused, to show us what's not working and be open to what is. Because it's kind of like that book, The Alchemist, where it's like you set your anchor on the destination, but the path you walk there, you can somewhat try to create a plan for. But as soon as you start sticking to the plan, it's like life gets really wavy. And it's like you got to know the balance between sticking to the plan and knowing when to pivot. And another one is, I love this from my mentor, Josh, is when to act and when to hibernate is so important too. And all these things are things that other entrepreneurs have dealt with, but it's not well documented anywhere. And that's what part of my channel today was, to share this stuff with anybody out there struggling like I was. This last 2 weeks was insane. We had this vision and we're building it, and then we got so focused on the vision that we forgot the simple things that make the vision work. And the vision is going to produce itself at its own timing, and it's not up to us to force it. It's up to us to create solutions to continually be able to build that vision, which is such a struggle because there's so many spiritual laws that will say, focus on one thing and only that one thing. And yes, that can work, but it's like, can you endure the stress that it takes to actually bring that to fruition, and the anxiety and the destabilized nervous system? And it's like, and getting to that, it's like our nervous systems are so key. If your nervous system's out of sync and destabilized, and you're trying to create from it, all you're doing is creating more chaos to deal with later, rather than stopping, slowing down, recentering, reorganizing, re-strategizing, and then proceeding to move. And I would share that with anybody. If you're in a chaotic phase, you can't plan when they come in. You just have to know when they're here. You need to deal with them. Instead of moving faster, it's all about slowing down, taking time, knowing that you're supported, but knowing that when chaos shows up, that's not a sign to speed up. It's a sign to slow down. It's a time to regroup. It's a time to recenter. It's a time to focus on self and get organized before you make moves forward. Because I think another saying is like, what is easy will create difficult outcomes, and what is difficult will create easy outcomes. And I'm not saying run towards the hardest thing with the most resistance. That is completely against anything I speak about. And it's simply going with the divine flow and finding that flow, but also staying in that flow and allowing yourself to be pushed by the stress behind you and sucked forward by the future and the vision guiding you. And that's an endless flow state that you can fall into. And in that endless flow state, it allows you to be one with everything around you instead of force everything around you to work with you. And it's like a lot of times I feel like humans have it backwards where we're like, we got to create stress, pressure, and anxiety. Like that's how generators operate. And if you're a generator, that's your system. But as a projector, and specifically a mental projector, it's all about seeing the environment, seeing the flow of everything around me, understanding that I'm not meant to force anything, whether it be my own energy, my own will, or this solution or that solution to make stuff work for me. It's about seeing everything around me, understanding my vision and getting clear on it, and then allowing that to fall into place and go with the flow of it, right? It's like being in a boat on the river is the best analogy I can say. Is like you want to go with the current and the flow. There's times that you can speed up when you have the energy, but when you're exhausted, you got to go more with the flow and put in paddles or rows just to essentially keep going, right? And that's like a maintenance phase versus like a high output phase. Is like, we got energy, let's keep going, let's go as fast as we can. And then it's like, whew, I'm exhausted. Let's take a break and go slow and even let the current take us and, drink some water and just, and that's like such a good analogy for life is everybody I think is out here. Well, I feel everybody is out here trying to over optimize, trying to get more done, trying to compete of who can have the highest output with the highest yield. And all they're doing is racing to burnout. And it's like, they're not humans being there, or what is this saying? There's humans being and there's being human. And it's like humans being, I don't even know which way the analogy is. I'd have to sit with that one. It's difficult in a channel to fathom, but it's essentially like you got to pick this or that. And a lot of people are trying to optimize to output, to chase materialism, success, and all these other things that are actually frequencies that we attune to. And these frequencies they're always there. It's just like, it's kind of like a radio station, right? Like if you got static and noise, like you're not in alignment. But as soon as you can hit that little button and dial into that setting and you like what the radio is sending you and you can feel the vibration, you can get the messages, you can get everything from that station. Then it's like you're in the right place. But as soon as that station gets staticky, you got to switch to a different station or a different vibration, a different frequency, a different dimension in order to pull everything together. And and that's the tough thing in life is like we build it and we get there and we're like, yeah, we did it, success is here. And then a new mountain appears, or that radio station, for instance. If we're using the radio station model, it's like that station loses its signal and we keep trying to tune into it and nothing's coming in. But what we're doing is shifting, we're growing, we're developing, we're expanding, and we got to go to a different radio station at a different frequency. And it's like, to think about it like a radio station or music's really simple. We never listen to the same song over and over and over again. There's seasons where those songs can be inspirational to us. But then once that song gets stale and dead, it's time to move on. And then we got to find, a different song or relate it back to the station. It's like, I might like hip hop or pop for a month, but then after a month, I'm like, I kind of heard all these songs. And then I'm like, let's go more into EDM, do EDM for a month. And then I'm like, okay, cool, kind of heard all these songs. Then go to hip hop. And then, it's continually molding around, but each one has a different season. And you got to understand, like, life is, everything in life is in 12, right? Like, there were 12 disciples, 12 months, 12 zodiac signs. And then the higher expression of that is 64. There's 64 codons to the DNA. There's 64 gene keys. You get the gist. Is like, there's certain numbers that endlessly showcase a fortress in life or elements of life. And when you can understand that, it's understanding like your life is going to go in seasons too. You're going to have seasons of the high that everything feels good. You're going to have seasons of the low where everything's hard and heavy and you're having to peel back parts of yourself that don't exist anymore. And then you're going to have seasons of the in-between. And I honestly think the in-between is the hardest because we're sitting here in the in-between and it's like what we used to do. It's kind of like this mix of like what we're building is exciting, but it hasn't fully developed yet. And what we used to do is dead and still to us. And it's that I think is the hardest spot to sit in between because you still have to go back to what's dead to you to create the bridge to come to what's coming in. But you're also focused on the vision that isn't producing anything yet. And it's like that in between is the hardest and the shakiest because you got to go down and up and down and up. And as much as we'd like to sit here, here does nothing, right? Because it's like you got to let go of this and you're building towards this. But in a sense of numbers, it's like 60-40. And it's like the 40 will cover the 60, but the 60 isn't quite 100. So if you try to make this 100, you're going to fall flat on your face and have to pick up the pieces and go back down here no matter what. So stop avoiding this and know that you can dip into this to go up. But in the middle, you're kind of doing this, which is very hard. It's oscillating a lot, right? Like that's a lot of movement versus something here is like simple and it's flowy, but nothing's being produced. And then something up here is really fast because it's new, and something down here it's really slow because it's old and it's stale and it's what we're meant to let go of. But it's even like, I love that analogy I just did with those hand movements. It's like, those are the three models of life is you have the highs, the lows, and the in-between. And the in-betweens are the hardest. It's because you're balancing two and you're going from overwhelmed to shutdown in a sense of a nervous system where this middle piece is the window of tolerance. But if you're on the in-between, there's no window of tolerance. But once this new idea gets built and it grows legs and it manifests down here, now it's in the window of tolerance in the perfect zone. But this only lasts for so long before, okay, that idea gets stale. It drops down here. New idea appears. And then you're right back on the in-between of dipping down and going high. And then you're like, and even in saying that, that's like the process I've been through is I went through the low. It came in and I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel right anymore. The new idea came in. That one feels dope. Man, that's a lot of build out. And I've actually been building out that new idea for 6 months, 7 months, and I've refined it twice and it's finally attracting the right people, but people aren't jumping on it yet. And in knowing that, it's like you can't force it. And by forcing it, you create more resistance. It's just trusting it. And if it's not showing you it's fully built yet, then it's not fully built yet. So then you got to go back down to the lows and dig through that energy. But through the lows, you're going to find answers to the high. But if you try to sit here in the in between and it's not built yet, you're just gonna boom, gong, 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 and that's chaos. That's what chaos feels like. It sucks. 12 on the timer for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, eclectically as a whole, though, if you live these upside down and backwards lives, like stop trying to compare your life to anybody around you who lives a normal life. Stop seeking advice from people around you who live a normal life. Really seek advice and knowledge from those around you, but be very precise to what style of entrepreneur, what style of business owner, whatever you're doing can be a solid mentor and have multiple versions because there's one who's going to be more like a CEO and is creative, more is like a COO who's more structured and systems based, one who's more marketing focused and understands how to make that actually execute. One who's more brand focused to make sure you're not confusing people. One who's just been in the boring game forever and loves the simple life. One who's been in the high pressure world and understands when to take risk and when not to. Like even having investors in your pocket as resources, whether they're investing or not, doesn't matter. They know what's investable and they can help guide you to creating something that is investable or creating the path to seek investment. And that's where I'm at too right now. It's like, whoa, it's hard. It's like we're in the pre-investment phase, but we're building something meaningful and it's going to last forever, but it doesn't quite have legs yet. So then we're back in the agency world doing the freelance stuff while we're building an offer, and now we're double stacking, but we're not, fully in it. But it's like when you live these upside down and backwards lives, you have to understand that you're an enigma, that you're a trailblazer, that you're a pioneer, that this isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And what you're being is molded to the person that you need to become for the next leg. And it sucks. It's hard. It's painful. It's struggle. Everything there's a burp there. Everything becomes non-existent or doesn't work for the new mountain that you're on. And as soon as you can realize that, it's not a game of trying to do what worked. It's doing what worked to make ends meet, but then also learning what you need to mold to and become in order to get to the next leg of your journey. Because it's, for instance, like if you're trying to hike up this is actually what I did on accident. If you're trying to hike up a double black diamond trail without water and a 20-pound backpack and tennis shoes that aren't tied, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really difficult. But if you have hiking shoes, you have water, you have a light backpack, and you have your bare necessities, then you're going to get up there a lot easier. And if you try to run it, you're going to get winded and have to take multiple breaks. But if you go at a nice, sustainable speed, it's going to be fun. It's going to be adventurous. You're going to enjoy the journey. You're going to enjoy the views. And when you get to the top, you aren't going to be focused on staying at the top as long as possible. You're going to see the view. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to spend some time up there and then start your journey back down. And it's like, all that sounds so simple. But when you're in this reality that everybody's going this way and you're going this way, it creates confusion the more you ask for help from people that are going this way. If they're going this way and you're like, hey, where are you going? And they're like, here. And you're like, oh, cool. And you're going that way and taking that advice. Like just seeing that it crosses, it's counterintuitive. It creates internal conflict of knowing what your mission is and going that way. And then external is the noise and people are telling you to go this way. And you're like, well, which way do I go? Fuck, you know? But it's about trusting that inner voice, trusting yourself, knowing your operating system, knowing your nervous system, knowing your ego, knowing your shadows, integrating and regulating all of those, and creating, just hauling yourself out so that you can receive, and being light and airy and moving fast, but not so fast that you're creating mistakes, but just in that divine flow. And whenever you can find that flow, I encourage you to use AI, document it. How's everything feeling? What are you doing? What does your, schedule look like? What does your day look like? What does your life look like? What are you excited about? And when stuff's really good, documenting that. And also when stuff's really bad and hard, documenting that as well. Because then it creates an external brain. So you don't have to use this brain. You can actually document it somewhere and refer to it when you need it by building a project or a team, whichever AI you're using, and then using that as a moment of like seek your intuition first, but then using these things externally as a backboard to see if it matches and aligns, or if it identifies something that you're overlooking. Because when you're scarce, when you're in fear, when you're in the dysregulated nervous system, you're going to make a lot of mistakes if you're trying to think through it, versus using something that's stable and external. It might show you something outside of your own mindset. But first, it's all about seeking yourself, then seeking externally. But if we can put our minds and our brains onto stuff like AI and build brains that are external to us, it frees our minds to allow us to be open to receive. And then if our bodies are hollowed out, we've done the healing, we continue to do the maintenance, then it's like our bodies and our nervous system sensing our reality and our environment and sending our brain thoughts to process on how we move. And then we have our intuitive channel open, and messages are flowing in. So we're using our environment and our intuition and everything unseen to understand everything that is seen, and create biofeedback through ourselves and how we process and understand information. And through processing and understanding that information, then we're able to create calculated guesses based on minimal risks, maximum potential with minimum effort. And that's the sweet spot, right? But it's everybody tries to be there before they're there, or people try to force that before they've understood how to operate in it, and they're like, it doesn't work, it's not happening for me, I don't understand this. And it's really like they aren't. If you try to drive a I don't know, say you got a pilot's license in a prop plane, and then you jump into a spaceship and you full throttle it, you're gonna be like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. Versus like, all right, let's get in, this thing's a lot faster, so let's start at the speed we're familiar with. Okay, now let's get the controls down. Now let's understand where all the buttons are. Now let's understand how the navigation systems work. Okay, now we got all the systems and navigation and everything in check. We've been going slow. Now let's speed it up a little bit. Now we're at halfway and it's like, all right, nothing's breaking. We understand it all. Perfect. Now we can go max. But also when you go to max, your fuel's dropping fast and you got to be really precise with where you're going. And then as soon as you're like, wait, that star moved, then you got to whoop, pull back all the way maybe, and like, all right, let's recenter, let's regroup, let's understand, okay, let's find where we're going again. So let's pause, let's just even sit here and idle in space, figure out where we're going again, where it's at, get the GPS going, make sure all the buttons are working, start accelerating that speed slowly. And then once you identify that target again and you're locked on it and everything's operating well, then push the gas again and go. But make sure that when you're going fast, you're using fuel precisely and wisely, and not just going fast to be going somewhere, not knowing where you're going or what you're doing or how to operate this new, spaceship that you're in, going from the prop plane. So as a whole though, if you're, just to summarize this video, if you're living an upside down and backwards life, like nothing's wrong with you. Don't embody shame, don't embody guilt. Start to understand who you are and what you're specifically here to do. And you can use tools like that, as astrology, numerology, human design, and understand how to put those all together. And that's what we do in my school community, ENOCH, which is a metaphysical based community where I teach you all these different aspects of how you can use metaphysics for a simple and practical life. And when you unify them all together, it gives you all the cheat codes to everything all around you that is unseen from human design, imagining that you're a computer trying to plug into the master computer we call reality without getting errors and 404 page errors and coding errors and all this, but actually like plugging in and putting your system into the mainstream and the mainstream coming to you to create with. And then astrology is just simply the gifts and skills broken into different archetypes of the signs. And then each celestial body is an archetype as well. And then the houses are an archetype, and pairing those together to understand how you communicate, how you think, how you love, how you work, what your career is, how people perceive you, and so forth. It's like all those elements. And then numerology is just simply your life path. It's like the path that you walk in life. It's your movie, and it tells you what kind of character you're in it. And then you have pinnacles, which are like mini movies or chapters to the big movie, or if it's a book, you're the character in it. And then the pinnacles are your milestones or the chapters within that book. And when you can understand all those elements and you unify together and understand how you operate in reality, what your gifts and skills are, how people perceive you, what you want to create, it gives you the playbook to start creating with from an educated guess rather than just like throwing something out there and being like, I hope it works. It's like pushing the full throttle on the plane and going, or in the spaceship and going as fast as you can, not knowing where you're going. That's what a lot of people are operating from versus understanding who you are, how you plug in, what your story is, what your gifts and skills are, what your talents are, what your shadow is, how to integrate all that and build it into a perfect life. Because then your life and being upside down and backwards, you're here to create something new. You're here to create something novel. You're here to be something different. You're a pioneer, you're a trailblazer, but you're also, when you can endure that path and learn from it and mold to the person that you need to become, you become a very influential person. You become somebody who has lived this life backwards their whole time just to create something new for the world, for yourself, for your friends, for your community, and create a massive shift. And that doesn't come on an easy path. That is essentially creating your own path as you walk. And if you're on that path, I'm here with you. It's confusing, it's hard. There's times where it's beautiful and it's fun, and then there's times where you feel like alienated and in an existential crisis, and you don't know what to do, and nobody can help you. And it is difficult, but it's also the joy of the journey is like knowing that there's going to be the highs and the lows and the in between. And when you can understand that, it's like know where you're at and operate correctly with where you're at, and stop trying to force where you need to be, and allow yourself the time to get to where you need to be through divine timing. Boom. That is such a dope. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to wrap up this video here. All the links will be in the description box below. I encourage you to seek those because there are so many beautiful resources that I share for people just like you. Because I have honestly had a very hard and difficult life, and I don't want people to go through what I did. So anytime I create a shift, anytime I go through a healing, anytime I gain a new perspective, anytime I solve a problem, I share it openly and freely because I understand that there's a lot of us living these upside down and backwards lives. And when we can start working together and teaming up with one another and sharing that information in one place, we can really start to create solutions for ourselves and start to team up and become the greatest team of beings here to shift reality and bring it to a higher vibration and frequency. And it's like when you can find those people and put out that signal and that message, they'll start attracting and you'll start attracting to them. And I think that's where the new earth, the new frequency, the new vibration, and all that starts appearing. And it's putting out signals like this and finding the people who are looking for it and also creating it and aggregating all that together and unifying it into a new experience. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this message, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Peace.